Hello, everyone. Yeah, I'm Johannes. Thanks so much for staying so long. I know it's pretty hot outside, but I want to make it fun very quickly. Yeah, so today I'm going to talk about a stablecoin. I think there's some people interested in stablecoins here. I'm going to talk about the real stable stablecoin. So what I mean by that is, the trusty Swiss franc. But what is actually stability? What do we understand when we talk about stability in a stablecoin? Is it no decrease in domestic purchase power? That, with one coin, you can buy the same thing today than in 10 years? Or does it mean that it simply doesn't devalue versus other assets? Or as I, written here, the FX rate doesn't decrease. Why not both? And, I know we're all thinking in dollar terms. Let me disappoint you. If you look at the last 50 years, the dollar actually lost. Now, this is a bit outdated. It's even worse now. I think year to date it's minus 15%. The dollar lost about 70% against the Swiss franc. So is that a stablecoin? I don't know. I say Swiss franc is. I'm Swiss. I'm proud to be Swiss, and I think there's some more Swiss people in here, so they might recognize what this is. Why is this Swiss franc so stable? Let's take a step back. It's built for stability. So, here you have two pictures. The left is the Rütli-Schwur, which is basically the historical foundation of Switzerland. Switzerland is not really a country. It's actually really 26 countries which decided to somewhat work together and made it happen. And the other one is the Battle of Marignano, which the other thing Switzerland is famous for, it's neutrality. And, just in the light of recent developments in the world, Switzerland has no king. Switzerland needs no king. Switzerland doesn't even have a president, in fact. Switzerland has 7 presidents. So those ladies and gentlemen here, and that's actually, I would say, argue one of the basics in why Switzerland is so stable, or why the Swiss franc stablecoin, the Swiss franc is so stable, is that decisions take time. Everything is slow. And slow is good when we talk about stability, because you can be sure that in 20 years' time, most likely things are going to be quite similar. Now, diving a bit deeper into the Swiss franc. The Swiss franc has been around for about 150 years. It replaced a huge mess of different stablecoins. And actually, if you would have to sum up the history of the Swiss franc, it's just really good at dodging shady things. I mean, starting World War I, where it was the only currency that was, stayed gold backed and didn't, go into like somewhat of a free float. Going on, 1936, when the world financial crisis in the 30s, 100 years ago, still the last ones to stay in gold backing. They dodged Bretton Woods. So for the ones who don't remember Bretton Woods was this idea after the Second World War to peg currencies to the dollar and have a fixed exchange rate of the dollar. Switzerland didn't do that, which in 1971 led to the fact that basically when the whole thing collapsed, well, the Swiss franc just stayed stable, and that's where the whole, one of the searches came from, which is more than 7 years ago. That actually doesn't count into that minus 65% I said before. Switzerland was up to 2000 holding 40% of its currencies in gold. Imagine that. But things changed a bit in 2011, and I'll get to that. I have a bit of time. Let's do a bit of an excursion. Do you remember this picture? So here you see Switzerland with a 61%. That's not tariffs. There's no tariffs in Switzerland on any imported goods anyways. But that means that's a trade deficit, or the US has it with Switzerland. Switzerland is an export nation. That is actually the reason why currency stability is so important, but in a negative way, that the Swiss National Bank actually doesn't want the Swiss franc to be that strong, because it makes it very expensive for Swiss industry to export. Pharmaceuticals, high-tech machinery, watches. What happened when Trump announced those tariffs? not what you expect. The dollar actually went down against the Swiss franc. It spiked again, so it made the whole thing worse. Shit. So yeah, in a nutshell, the Swiss franc is too stable for its own good. And I have here on the left-hand side, it's called the Frankeddon, where from 2011 to 2014 it was, the S&B actually defended or tried to defend the peg against the euro. So they bought 800 billions worth of euros to keep the Swiss franc artificially low. When they stopped doing that, it just went up 20%, and in its wake, bankrupted many FX traders. Switzerland is now not, even potentially going to be backed by Bitcoin. Replacing gold with Bitcoin. That'd be really cool. There's an initiative going in Switzerland. But to sum this all up, Switzerland is a really good hedge, and that's why we're building a Swiss franc stablecoin, and that's why we believe, guys, hold Swiss francs as your assets. Don't hold dollars as stablecoins. And that's what the Swiss franc and Frankencoin is all about. Thank you so much.